Yeah.
I assume Carlos and Chris also went to and graduated college.
Yep.
So I know Amit and Adam, y'all talked about it a little bit this morning, the morning open. But do you guys think there's any possibility that there will actually be that $10,000 grant? Because this is a two-part question. That's the first part. The second part's kind of more important to me. So do y'all think there's any possibility
when you say grant, do you mean student loan forgiveness?
Yeah, that's what I mean.
Okay. Do you think the Supreme Court allows Biden?
Do you think there's any chance?
You're asking
I don't think so. I think it's gonna be 6-3.
No,
given the
I don't
decision we
think
got
there is
today,
either, but I want to hear y'all's opinion.
I think I think he should be able to push that through with executive order, to be honest. I don't think that that's a Supreme Court issue. I don't think that's an issue of like, because where's the Supreme Court when we send money to like Ukraine, right? 40
exactly.
We write blank checks and they lost the Pentagon lost like $6 billion. What are we asking for a student loan to give them 10,000? Do you understand? I mean, this goes back to like the hypocrisy of it, where they'll present to you something that they want to do, and they'll say that it's evidence of a certain principle that we believe, yet it is ignored when you try to apply it somewhere else. They're like, no, it's different. It's like, if we can send money to another country that's not our citizens, right, we should be able to give some student loan relief. Why is there? I think we shouldn't send any money anywhere until every last veteran is off the street, right? If you went and fought for the country, there should be no one that has fought for the country for the rights that we have now who's not enjoying those rights, right? It's kind of like you can't take care of someone outside of your family until your family's taken care of, right? So me personally, I think you should be able to do an executive order and say, boom, we're going to find this money, just like we find it for other countries. We're going to find it, but I don't know why it's going to the Supreme Court. And you can argue both ways, right? You can argue that they always knew it was going to go to the Supreme Court and they knew it was going to get shut down. So it's plausible deniability. It's saying, hey, we tried. It wasn't our fault, but so we're on your side, and so continue voting for us. But those Supreme Court justices, they were voted in by Trump. It's all their fault. You know what I mean? Or it could actually be that they really want to get it done, and the conservative judges are doing what they were put in place to do. Which I don't understand why that's like this conservative. Why the conservatives are so against that?
It's a good point you make about how we've sent probably close to $200 billion to Ukraine, and like that doesn't have to go through legislation or the Supreme Court or all that. And it's going to be like, if they do student loan forgiveness, it's going to be a fraction of what they sent to Ukraine with no, approval by anybody, just executive order.
Well, no, so some of the money that was sent to Ukraine, I think a vast majority of it was approved by Congress. Like they put it into their bills to do that, right? There's money that's allocated towards certain funds and to do certain things, and they allocate it and then they purchase things with it and then they send it over. So as an example, Zelensky wasn't handed a $60 billion check. I think that's the one mistake.
Right. It went through Zelle.
No, it went through Zelle. No, what it is
American War Machine. Okay,
Venmo. It was like, like, whoa.
It went through, and Vitaly's right. It went through the American War Machine, which is exactly how a lot of countries
better have gone through Palantir. That's all I fucking care about.
Well, no. What happens is the U.S.
1%.
Yeah, the U.S. will buy the equipment from the defense contractors. The defense contractors will then send it over. Sometimes it's surplus stuff that we would normally buy for ourselves, and then instead of using it, we just say, "Oh, you know what? Ukraine can use it." Goes that way, and now you can charge it against your
stuff. Will we get any of the money back? It wasn't part of my question, but will we get any of the money back?
No, well, I mean, it's a handout for American War Machine. That's what it is.
That's right.
Of course but you ask yourself, what does America get out of it? I was watching some interviews with like some former Marine guys, like Marines that were involved in some of the high profile events in the last few years. And a lot of them are like, dude, it's so obvious what America, and I'm not saying this is my opinion, but like, it's so obvious what America wants. They're using Ukraine as a way of practicing what it's like having a war at that distance, right? It allows them to practice the moving of that many resources and troops in preparation for China to invade Taiwan. This is what that's about. This is why they're spending so much money.
Is that the worst thing in the world? Is that the worst thing in the world for them to prepare?
No, I'm not saying my opinion one way or the other. I'm just saying they're telling you that it's about freedom and democracy in Ukraine, but what it really is, it's sort of practicing, because it's like you can't just we're really far away. To move that amount of resources takes practice, and you don't want to be caught with your pants down. So if you think this is a few years away, this is a great way of doing that. The other thing that this guy was saying is that it allows you to flush out a lot of your old inventory, right? We have old planes, old trucks, old cars. You send a lot of this old stuff over there, and it allows you to build some new shit.
That's a good point.
Do you understand? You just like flush out your old inventory, get rid of that stuff that's been sitting around for a while, get fresh money, build some new shit, and at the same time you are building sort of supply chains, and you're working out all of the kinks to be able to have a war at that scale if in fact China does invade Taiwan. So the money's going to keep flowing. But to your point about student loans, a lot of that started in the 80s. The politicians of the 80s in Congress realized that they could stay elected forever if they didn't legislate. Well, how do you not legislate? What you do instead is you kick the issues, the big issues that like, what do they call those issues? Like the single ballot issues, like the
hot button issues.
Yeah. The hot button issue that basically like where somebody will vote one way or another and have party loyalty regardless of everything else. So like, abortion rights or whatever.
Which happens all the time.
Right. And so what you do is you say, vote for me, right? And instead of legislating, what they do is they focus on the big issues, and then they push that off to the Supreme Court. So then they can stay elected permanently by just saying, look, if you vote for me, I'm going to vote only conservative judges to the Supreme Court, or I'm only going to vote liberal judges to the Supreme Court. And what happens then is they stop legislating and they basically go into full-time campaign mode, not really legislating, not really writing any laws, just kicking everything down to the Supreme Court so that they also have plausible deniability and lack of accountability if it doesn't happen. And this is what you're seeing now after 20 years. This is kind of what the system that we have. And it's unfortunate.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Just saying, it's unfortunate because I think if you vote the president in on a specific agenda, the president should be able to enact that agenda, right? And look, Obama and Trump both used executive orders like to do so much shit. You're telling me this guy can't give people 10 grand? What the hell?
I'd love it, but man, I would argue it's unfair. My older brothers, they've paid off all their student loan debt. I'm the youngest of three. They've paid it all off. I think it's unfair, but hell yeah, I want it. You know what I mean?
You think it's unfair because you're saying because you had to pay your student loans, it's unfair that the generation after you gets this free money?
No, I'm saying the generation before me, my older brothers that are 5 and 8 years older than me, and that goes for a lot of people who paid their student loans. I think it's unfair that they were responsible, unlike me, and only paid $100 a month while my balance stayed the same because the interest was $100 a month. So my balance just stayed the same. And, I want that $10,000. I pray for it, but I'm against it.
Basically, you're saying practically you would like the 10 grand. I'm kind of in the same situation, but ethically you're like, well, I'm just getting free money for no reason.
Yeah, but I hope it happens.
So here's the thing. Here's the thing that I would love for people to get that money and pay off some of their student loans and everything else, right? But at the same time, we're incentivizing the colleges to keep raising tuition. And that's the part that always gets me. Anytime the government puts their hand in the cookie jar, not just the cookie jar, anytime they put it in any industry, they tend to make it 10 times worse, right? You had good intentions of, let's say, home ownership. The government said, hey, we really want home ownership to be, a big part of our American culture. So what did they do? They started to say, you know what, let's lower lending standards. That's what happened. And then people were just getting loans right and left. Then we have great financial crisis. Right now, the student loans, same shit. The federal government gets involved, says, hey, guess what? We'll guarantee your student loans. Now everyone is taking student loans. The colleges realize that there's an endless amount of money that's being backed by Uncle Sam. Keep raising those tuition rates. And right now, tuition is, if you go to like some of these universities, you're walking away with a damn mortgage.
When I went to my college, it was 12 grand a year. And now it's like 28.
50 grand. Yes. Ridiculous.
I'm 31 years old. When I went 13 years ago, it was 12 grand a year. And now it's almost 30.
Which is kind of crazy. Like, no one should be walking away from school with that. The other thing is there's this constant push that everyone needs to go to college. Like, no matter what, if you go to college, you will automatically be successful. And I think that's where a lot of kids get roped in also, saying, look, not everyone needs to go to college. Your end profession is not going, like, if you have an interest in a certain industry, pursue that industry. Figure out a way to monetize that. And so I think to a degree, there is a racket in education that's pushing a lot of this stuff. And because of that racket's power over political system,
Chris, let me push back real quick. PPP
Yeah.
loans that went to businesses that didn't need them. Why can't student loans go to kids?
So the PPP loans,
Gotcha.
They had to.
It's not even a gotcha. I just want to add to
but it is. But
they won't, because
exactly
it won't go to people making over 125,000 a year, right?
That's true. That is the cap on it. Yeah.
So the thing with the PPP loans, and I think this is where everyone gets PPP loans a little bit wrong, but the government had to make a choice. The pandemic was raging. They knew that there was going to be a lot of people that applied for PPP loans that were complete fraudsters. But their equation was the good that will come from protecting the economy by injecting this money into the general economy will be well worth it to lose out on the fraud that happens. I don't think that they estimated the fraud was going to be as high as it was, because with PPP, literally, as long as you have like an LLC, you put the money through and basically you just got free cash. And then they just did forgiveness. I know a whole bunch of people like in the Indian community who were owning businesses like gas stations, liquor stores, and all
rat out our brothers,
they
bro.
They got a shit ton of money in PPP. They still had businesses that were open. They made a fuck ton of money on top of that, right? And what did they do with the PPP loans? They took it, they just bought gold, and they have gold. Literally, they have bricks of fucking gold. I'm not talking about buying like a few diamond rings,
like
and
their
shit like
Zoom
that.
background and like immense would be gold.
They bought fucking bars of gold. Okay, let me tell you, if you went during COVID, if you went to the 42nd, the Diamond District in New York City during COVID, that shit was still open. People were buying precious metals like there was no tomorrow, dude. Okay, because they thought, hey, listen, if I have cash,
PPP loan money.
Yeah, with cash, they can always come into your bank account, find out it's there, take it back. You have a bar of gold, you hide that shit somewhere. What are you gonna do with it?
What are you talking about?
Bitcoin.
Huh?
I do want to say, because I kind of I agree with like most of what you're saying, and I have a spin on it. I agree with you that people are being funneled into the education system more to make money in the education system than it is the promised guarantee that they're going to have work when they get out. And I agree with you that we have lost respect for the people that do the trades, right? We've lost respect for electricians, plumbers. We kind of don't see them as valuable. But if you think about it, some of the most successful people that I know are in those industries. That's number one. Now, with respect to the student loans, first of all, to all the people that are saying it's not fair, like I personally have no issue seeing somebody come after me that's have a better life because of a certain situation or something that we're able to do. I don't understand these people that say I suffered, so I want the next person to suffer. The point of generations is to make it a little easier for the people that come after you. So I personally think, and you might disagree with me, that that's incredibly selfish, all these people. And that's a conservative thing by and large. People say, oh no, bootstraps. Fuck that, man. If we have the opportunity to make it a little bit easier for the people that came after, what about that person who's trying to get to college or is going to come out of college and say invent something in medicine that could help you and your family in the future, right? Or
Carlos, I agree with you, but how do you respond to the counterpoint, which is you have to be responsible for the loans you take out?
I'm getting to that. Okay, the problem that we're having, this particular issue was not because people didn't want to pay. This was brought on by COVID. People were not allowed to leave their homes. People were not allowed to go out and work, right? And so they didn't just have a campaign to ask for student loan forgiveness. This was in response to the pandemic, right? And to your point, Amit, they protected businesses, they protected banks, and all they did for Americans was say, well, you're not going to pay your mortgage for a year, but if you haven't worked for a year, or if you were a like VITALY, we have properties together, right? Who's paying the mortgage on that, right? All of a sudden, if the people that are in those homes can't work, right, and we can't evict them, like, do you see what I mean? It's disproportionately favoring help for some people and not help for others. So
the one thing, Carlos, though, like right now with inflation and everything, like I'm sure that one day there will be some level of student loan forgiveness, but right now is the worst time that you could do it, because right now inflation is high, employment is low.
So you can give people Chris, yeah. You can give people $7,500 to buy a fucking Tesla, and you can't give people $10,000.
Well, no, it's worse.
That's a good point.
It's worse. You can go fight a war. You can go fight a war but you can't help the people in America.
Yeah, you can
That's
go spend
the
that
point.
money overseas to go fight a war, and you're telling us it's for
No, I'm
Defend,
all
baby.
I'm-
We gotta defend the nation. We gotta defend
no,
the
no.
country.
All I'm saying
So
is right
spend
now,
$10 million less.
all I'm saying is injecting capital into the current economy is probably not the way to go, because you're just going to exacerbate inflation more.
Exacerbate? Is that like
Yeah.
masturbate?
Yeah, no, you just don't.
But that's what
We know what
was done
Vitaly's
over
gonna
the-
do when the pod ends.
That's what was done over the last 2
I've
years.
done it before the pod.
Right. No, I agree. That's exactly.
There was
that's
a ton of
exactly what's going
liquidity.
on.
That's how we got to this place. We got to this
Right.
place by injecting a ton of liquidity. But why did they do that? It was to prop up, the banks. Let's
But that's
Okay,
what
but to
I'm saying,
Chris's point, if we spend 400 billion on loans, we're going to inflate the fuck out of the economy. So regardless of what we're doing in Ukraine, doesn't that argument have merit on its own? That inflation will be worse for the middle class that has to pay those loans because they're going to lose.
All right,
purchasing power?
Guy. Do you think they stopped printing money just now? Like the money printer's off?
Yeah,
Is this
yeah,
what
like
you think
it's-
is happening? Like
Right.
it's off? There's
Yeah,
no money
no.
coming into the
they
system.
turn off the lights
They
after.
turned it all off. Are you guys really this foolish? It's still printing. It's still going. So on terms of loans, look, I think people should pay their own way, but giving someone $10,000 to make it easier for them as they're growing up, big fucking deal. Okay. We have lots of programs here. We have, what is it? When you turn 65, we're supposed to take care of you. I don't know.
Social Security.
Social Security.
Vitaly's so rich. He's like, I don't,
I don't even know. I don't know what these poor people
I'm
have.
gonna donate my-
He's like, what the fuck
Donate
is
my
that poor
Social
people shit?
Security.
What is that shit at 65? I don't need that.
Well, no, Medicare, Social Security. We have all of these programs,
How did
food
you not know
stamps.
such- Oh my god.
I know, I
love
just
it.
forgot the word, but hold on a second. I actually have an point.
No, it's just
point
funny.
today.
It's just- all right, go
Food
ahead.
stamps, Social Security, all these programs we have. So what if we have another program to help somebody else who needs it? I don't think this is such a big deal.
This
And
is-
the thing, hold
Sorry.
on, Carlos. You've had your 20, 30 minutes.
Why you guys gotta get me
So-
fired up, man?
I was actually going to rebut what you said earlier. I didn't have a chance because you and Chris are going back and forth. But basically, the president cannot just give out money and do a executive order. Congress controls. Look, he leaves. He leaves right in the middle of it.
He's like, I don't give a fuck what he's saying.
It's like, fuck it, I'm out. Congress controls the purse. You can't just give the 10,000 out and do an executive order. You cannot just do that. That's not how it works. Okay. Executive orders, even those, the funding for those are done by Congress. So the money, the purse, if you knew anything about a constitutional government, Congress controls all the money. Bottom line, that's the way it works.
Is it a Louis
Well, they
Vuitton?
didn't-
Louis
they
Vuitton
didn't with
purse,
Ukraine.
or-
right?
I think
I mean,
war
they did with
privileges,
Ukraine. They didn't
war
get past
privileges
the-
are some, you have like 90, I forgot maybe Chris knows. You have like 90 days to fight, kill, destroy everything. And then you need Congress to actually give you the money.
Yeah, you could do
Okay.
like limited operations as the chief executive because you're also in charge of the military. But to fund the war, you need Congress to appropriate the money to do it. So the only people that can, declare a war in the United States is actually the Congress, and we haven't declared a war in like forever. Like the last time. I think
this is what I think. I think if anything needs an ESG, it's members of Congress. We need to hold our members of Congress accountable for environmental, social, and governance standards that we then can use to rate these fuckers and decide whether or not they're actually working in our interests and not their own interests. Okay. So if you have
Hold
something
on,
like
Carlos,
that,
Carlos, I got a question for you. This one's going to keep the discussion going. Why is the government giving an 18-year-old $60,000 in loans to study a liberal arts degree that is going to give zero
Okay.
value to society and
Yes.
then forget? Like, that's a good point. If you're
It's a
going to
good-
get 60 grand from the government, go
it's a-
study engineering, right?
it's
And
a-
then they're
it's a
going to
good-
make no money with that degree.
And they're going to make
to pay
no
it off.
money with this degree and pay taxes.
It's a good point, and I'll get to that. Just the idea, like bring up Jorge Rubio's comment. I'm calling you out. 816. Teach the kids how to be financially responsible. That's your answer. Don't go to a college that you can't afford. I just think that is incredibly cruel and mean to actually think that about, say, some fellow Americans. Speaking with Noah, do you think that you need to spend $18,000 a year going? No, I don't think that those should be degrees. I think that should be something that you should go find the money for, or
No,
you
but
should
that's
fight-
Chris's point.
You should
That's
fight
Chris's
to get
point.
you should fight to get a scholarship. I do think that there should be more.
But Chris's
scholarship
point is,
programs.
if you forgive loans, colleges are incentivized to teach literal bullshit to kids,
Okay,
and
but
then
that's
get
a-
subsidized by the government.
That's a different story. And back to Jorge Rubio's point, I don't think that it should be wiped out. I do think that there was, and look, you and me, Vitaly, we all had student loan debt when we got out of school, and I think that actually is important a little bit. I don't think that it should be enough that you feel this incredible. Like, I know people that are $400,000, $250,000 in debt. That is something that you'll probably never recover from. Just the interest payments alone, like it just buries you. And it's it's horrible to have that. Like, it's the same thing as like the reason why we don't let kids get tattoos at 16 is because it's going to have these long lasting impacts. It's a little bit irresponsible to allow someone 18 years old to sign. They don't have any idea how much money this actually is. Right.
Yeah.
So I do think that there is some irresponsibility, and government should step in and wrangle in some of the tuitions, and in the same way that we appreciate when our companies scale down and fire people, right, and they get sort of trim and lean. Some of these colleges have just gotten so big, the bureaucracy is just way too massive. So it's predatory on the part of the colleges, and I think that that's something that our governments should step in. Another reason why I do think that we should be able to hold our Congress people accountable in the same way that we're doing these companies with something like an ESG type metric. And I'm a big proponent that our politicians should have to do quarterly reports. I don't see any reason why they couldn't get on every quarter to their constituents. And this is what I did for you guys. This is what I'm going to do. Take a question and answer, have it be public. Basically, the system that we have in place for companies is actually brilliant to hold
100%.
Public officials accountable, yet we don't do it.
All right. Well, again, this was a 2-part question, and y'all taking a lot of time. So can I get to the second part real quick? Because I don't want to.
He's like, is SoFi gonna hit $10?
Not SoFi. You know, I'm a Palantir guy.
Yeah, okay.
Oh man, Scott, I think we got to end it, bro. It's been an hour 20.
Dude,
Well, let Scott finish. Let Scott finish.
Okay, so let me leave. I'll be back in like 5 minutes. I gotta go do something. I'll be back.
Yep.
That's perfect, because I was talking to you three, not AMIT. I'm just kidding, man. All right. So am I dumb right now for having 26 grand in student loan debt and having 32 grand in the stock market when my student loan debt's about a 5% interest rate?
Yes.
You think I should get rid of it?
No. I'll say this. Your risk.
I was being facetious, by the way. There should be a mixture, but
Yeah.
you should be doubling down on paying off that debt, not the minimum.
I should be paying more.
You should be doubling down on paying it off while still. I think people should still invest. I'm not of the belief, Dave Ramsey belief, where he thinks like,
Pay everything off.
get rid of all your bills. If you have a really low interest loan that you can afford and you're making more in something else, even there's dividend stocks like Truist that pay you 7%, but that's still irresponsible. 8%. It's still irresponsible to go all into the market and not just double down to pay off that debt. So I would focus on doubling down on that.
So I would say, think of it as this is an opportunistic market where I think the rate of overall IRR is going to be much higher, because what's happening is a lot of companies have fallen off. The price to books on so many companies is below 1 right now. You know, the economy is still pretty strong. So there's more incentive for the more likelihood that you will actually accumulate more money by being in the market rather than being out of the market.
And
if this was like
exactly what I think.
If you were in the bullish, if we were in a truly crazy bubble bull market, you have to like resist the urge to be FOMOing in and instead pay off the guaranteed money that's out there. So if there is a ton of overvaluation out there, the best thing to do is just say, look, I'm going to get a nice 5% reduction in my interest charges, and this principal is going to be gone. Let me just take the money, put it into my student loans, and then build up your capital again, so that when the bear market comes, you have the opportunity to invest in companies and then grow like crazy. So right now, for me, I have the money to pay off my mortgage, but my mortgage is like 3.5%. Why would I pay my mortgage off, or I'm getting a return that's going to be much higher on this?
Well, why don't we frame this as for us? Because look, we don't know your situation, so this is not financial advice. I want to make that clear. So this is
KRIS
for Chris.
Has a bunch of gold bricks under his bed.
This is for Chris talking, because I don't know your financial situation exactly and how much you make a month and what you can afford. But just wisdom says you should always pay off debt that you do not need to have.
But wisdom also says you should pay off high interest debt, and 5% is kind of borderlining. You know, it's a little high, but it's not very high, and you expect just 8% just from S&P 500. So it's kind of like,
you're getting a 300 basis point spread.
I'd be fucking paying.
Yeah, but the problem is that timing doesn't always work out the way we want. So let's say you are right for 2 years, and then some event happens. China invades Taiwan. Whatever happens, all of a sudden your theory goes out the window. You still own that debt, and then you are not going to pay it because you can't be pulling out stocks that have tanked 50%.
If it was me, Scott, because there's no real finite date like that, I would say that you would have. I would just pay. To be honest, this is going to sound bad, but I would just pay the interest figure out from my investing what to do, and then make money on that, and then slowly work on the principal once the interest rates are a little bit lower, right?
Honestly,
Because that
man,
means
that's kind of what
yeah.
I'm doing, Chris. That's
Yeah.
basically
and just up it up, you know, because the thing is, like, if you think about the dollar, the value, this is just purely from like financial engineering. The value of that debt day to day is getting less and less, right? Just think about it for 2 seconds. Like the inflation rate right now is like what, 5%. That means that every year the money is becoming 5% less valuable. I would take that money and just from an alternative side, like, okay, where can it grow? Can I invest it in myself? That's the other thing. Like, do you want to use that money to invest in, like, let's say a career changing move? Do you want to take an investment property on or something like that? I don't know your situation.
Buy a house, so like I can't pay it off if I'm going to buy a house. It's either pay the student loan debt off or buy this house.
Look, I'll make it really simple. What's your student loan payment? Let's just say your student loan payment is $200 a month. Okay, let's just say it's $200 a month. Something like that. Yeah, it's cheap. It's nothing. If you know that you can sustain that payment, no matter what, you have a year of that payment somewhere that you can get while you have your money in the markets. I don't see any reason to pay it off right now, because all they care about is that the money comes in every month. It's never going to be a moment where suddenly the balance is going to become due and you're on the hook for whatever, $26,000 like that. So as long as you can keep going, like Chris is saying, just keep it at bay, keep it at bay. As long as the money that you could be spending on to pay off the loan is generating you more, it's outpacing the interest on the loan, you're fine. And then you know what? One day you'll get that big return, whatever.
Yes, Scott, is it fixed or is it a variable? Is the interest rate fixed?
I've got to be fixed.
If it's variable, then yes.
I called them like a month ago, and they said the 26 grand is spread through like 5 different accounts.
Yeah.
Because the average interest rate every is year. Like 5.2%.
Okay, so then pay off the loan.
Every year is a new loan. Like,
that would mean that you should probably pay off the student loan.
Well, no. What you should do?
Why is that changing anything?
Guys, we can't give financial advice, so stop giving him financial advice.
No, I'm just saying what I did. Like, what I did was after my 4 years came out, I deferred it for a few months, and then I was able to consolidate all the loans into one. Because you basically take out a new loan every 4 years, and they all have different maturity dates. So you want to have it all end at the same time. And I was able to wrap that up and essentially refinance it. Refinance it.
Because that's what I talked to them about when I was on the phone with them. Is like, hey, how about consolidating it into one? And then they said, but it would go to the average of all the interest rates. It would go to the average of what
is it lower? Is it lower than what interest rates are now?
I mean, it's like 5.2% or something.
What if you take the 32 grand, put it in Nicola, get that to go up to 50 grand,
or some shit coins,
and then you're good.
I'm talking about Nicola.
Solana.
I'm just kidding.
I'm telling you.
Hey, I appreciate you guys. Y'all give me a lot of good insight. I go to my brothers a lot of this stuff, but even more insight than they could have ever given me. I appreciate you guys. Thank you.
Thanks, Scott.
Yeah, Scott, I want to give a shout out to you. He's one of my first OG subscribers, been with me for a long time. Thank you for being here. Thank you for this is a great discussion. The student loan thing is like a 30-minute debate. So that was an awesome topic to bring up. So that was awesome.
One last thing. I gotta do the same thing I did last time. Palantir to 100 by 2026.
Okay, Chris, you better buy some fucking Palantir.
He better pay off his debt.
Chris, go ahead. What were we gonna say?
That would put Palantir at 90 billion market cap.
Yeah, something like that.
90 billion
market cap.
He's
oh yeah, that's totally possible.
I'm saying there are 20 billion now. That's something like that.
Yeah. Chris, go ahead, Chris.
Quick math.
No, I'm just saying, like, this is the whole thing with like investing, right? Everything that you do is it's honestly it's a gamble, right? It's like, what if I paid off my student loans, right? And now I don't have the liquid capital to invest in the money. Now the market could go up, like Palantir could double tomorrow, right? Now you just threw away an opportunity cost on that. On the other side, let's say you took that money, put it into Palantir, and Palantir went down by a half. Now that money that you could have put towards student loans, you don't have that. So every decision that you make is going to have a consequence, no matter how mundane it is. So the best thing to do is just everything that you do, even if you're at a very young age, if you're 17, 18, you should be thinking about this. I know some of our viewers are very young. It's like, hey, you know what? I should take a little bit of ownership over the responsibilities that I'm about to inherit with these student loans and just say, you know what? Is the juice worth the squeeze? Then again, this is the other part about student loans that I hate, the vulnerability aspect. Like when you're 17, 18 years old, Like, what do you really know about high finance? Like, you know nothing. My wife took out so much student loans that right now she's like drowning in it, right? And she's gonna pay it off. She's listening to this, so I'm gonna tell her right now, you're gonna pay off your student loans. The thing is, though, when they got her with these student loans, she was 18. She was young. She couldn't make any decisions. Like, this was not a thing that people consider when you're 18. All you're thinking about when you're 18 is, oh, I just want to go to school. I want to make money. And I just not even make money. I just want to go to school and hang out with my friends. You're so happy about going to school. You completely forget about the lifelong decisions that you were about to make. You know,
No one. Yeah.
Not at that age. No one thinks about it. I certainly wasn't.
And this is the one thing that they should do
either.
in when you're like a sophomore in high school. This is like the class that everyone should be taking. What is college worth?
Yep.
This is what interest is.
The thing is, they don't teach you that. You know how they
went to business school and they don't teach that shit.
They
bro.
would come to my school, bro. They would come to my. I got in trouble with credit cards early. You know how I got in trouble? Because they came to my school and there was a cool T-shirt. They were like, "You want this freaking card?" So they gave me a freaking T-shirt.
Discover card.
I got a credit
Discover.
card.
Discover.
Look, I got a stupid credit card, and back then I bought like a 1986 Chevy Camaro. And when the engine died, I should have let that car go, but I wanted to still ride it because I love my car. And I went and I spent, I don't know how many thousands of dollars putting in a new engine. And before I knew it, I was $12,000 in debt. It's like, it's irresponsible of a specific generation to give a younger generation that much money, basically infinite money, without training them on finances and how to be financially responsible. It's irresponsible to do that to kids, whether it be student loans, credit cards, whatever it is, right? But it's part of the machine. It's part of what keeps the machine going. When your MasterCard and your Visa stock goes up, that's part of why it goes up. Those interest payments. So
Exactly.
anybody here, like even Scotty, what I would do when you get off the phone is, you have $26,000 in student loan debt, but calculate what it would actually cost you if you just paid the minimum to maturity. I guarantee you it's more than $26,000, because what you need return per year, say out of your Palantir stock, is more than just to cover the $26,000. You need to cover that plus the interest that's continuing to build. So the longer you're not paying it off, actually the more money you need your portfolio to return. So really calculate what the cost of that capital is before you say, well, it's 26 grand. I'm just going to wait for
the cost of the capital is 26 grand times 5% a year, right?
Well, it depends who's financing your loans and at what rate.
And if you've got a bunch of loans and they're not consolidated, but like really calculate. One thing that I find, I don't know about you guys, is just getting the actual answer. Like it's usually a number, right? You sit there like VITALY has a bunch of like spreadsheets and stuff. If you sign up for our Discord and our Patreon, you can see some of the spreadsheets.
Mods, you got to plug that shit.
Bam, right there. Where are you, Kelly?
They've been doing a good job today. They've been doing a great job. Kelly, Wong.
Yeah, they've all been doing a
Yeah, Kelly's on it.
But the point is, a lot of times the answers to these questions are just a number. Figure out the spreadsheet, put all the numbers in, figure it all out, and it's usually some number that it sort of makes.
Have you ever seen an amortization schedule?
Yeah. I mean, I got my finance degree at UNCW.
So
I've definitely seen it. But
they take the interest first before they take your principal.
Yes, they do.
Just remember that.
Oh yeah, I mean, like on a house, all of its principal.
Oh, dude, every month I see that.
All of its
every
interest.
month.
All of its
Yeah,
interest.
Yeah, it's mostly interest. It goes from like 80% interest to that.
I hate it.
I'll tell you guys a quick story. So I G'd Stony.
I have a story too, so yeah.
No, we got to go.
So-
It's 1:30. Come on, guys. It's an hour and a half.
I'll be quick. I'll be quick about it. So Stony Brook, when I first went,
Oh, you said Stony Brook. Let's do this.
you could actually pay your tuition using Solar, right? Which is the online web portal at the time.
I remember
Now,
that.
the thing is, I had my Discover card that I had just gotten at the time. So my tuition was due, but then all my grants, like some of my TAP, Pell, some of the scholarship money that I had, that would come in a little later, right? But the invoice for the student loans would come first.
He's on the government teat.
For the student, the tuition would come first. So what I used to do is put the entire thing on my Discover card, and the expense was educational expense, and I would get a 6% back on my money. Right?
No, the IRS is about to come after this fucking.
So now I got that money back as credit, but I use that towards like my books. Now here's the part that's awesome. Stony Brook would get the money from Discover, but then they would eventually get the money from TAP, from Pell, and from the scholarship money, and they would say, "Oh, we overcharged you. Here you go, Mr. Patel. Here's a check," and I would just use that check to pay my Discover card the next month. and boom, I was making $600 every semester, which is awesome for an 18-year-old because I was using it on books. It was actually beer, but books, you know.
Oh my goodness, that's wow.
Here's to
smart.
that.
But they stopped
I'm
that. They
sorry,
stopped
but like
that.
it's
They
like
stopped
it's like
that.
what Trump said, right? It's like you just playing by the rules that are set. Like you just created 6% out of nothing.
Yeah.
Pretty good.
Yeah.
Arbitrage, baby. Arbitrage.
All right, guys.
Anyway, this was fun, guys.
All right, Scott. Thanks for being
Thank you,
on.
thank
Appreciate
everyone.
you,
Thanks,
man.
guys. Appreciate
That was
y'all.
awesome.
And
Thanks
thank you
for the
all
info.
for participating in the chat. I'm going to watch this back and go back to the chat again. I can never keep up with it.
Yeah, this was awesome. This is the last Finance Junkies for this week on Thursday. Thank you to the 400 people that were here, and we'll be back Sunday.
Yeah, Sunday. What's happening Sunday, Amit?
Sunday, 11 a.m. Eastern. We are going to be live on the new channel that's been plugged in the chat, but Kelly, you could probably plug it one more time with 2 guests. One is Sonny Coates. He invested in Enphase at $1. He's going to give his bull case for Enovix. And another guy named Crossroads, who has done a lot of due diligence on the bear case for Enovix and the bull case.
He's going to see his face. He's going to be live with his face, right?
Yeah, he's been a guest before.
Yeah, he's been a guest before. Yeah.
Okay.
The other part of this, guys, is we're specifically doing this. Sonny is in Paris right now, but we've also been talking about doing a podcast that would be live for our European audience. So if you get a chance, it's going to be the first time we're going to have that European audience be able to be live, and so I'm really curious to see what that's like in the chat. So for all the people that are watching this tomorrow morning, we're really looking forward to meeting you guys. Some of you guys have written us on Twitter, and this should be super interesting. Really looking forward to this. And we're also going to finally do the fucking DD on Enovix that we've been saying we're going to do for a while.
It's Enovix, by the way. Cahodes, we just saw a video. He says Enovix. I'm going to say what he says.
knew it.
Roger
I
says
knew it.
Enovix, but
I knew it.
Roger says Enovix.
Hey, well, he's wrong because Cahodes owns the fucking
All right,
stock.
why don't we? That should be the title of the pod: Enovix or Enovix.
I'm saying Enovix from now on. It's just better.
I like Enovix better, but anyway, thank you, gentlemen.
That's
It's always a good time butting heads with you guys.
Later.
It was awesome.
Take
Enjoy
care.
your Friday, Saturday, Sunday. We'll see you guys tomorrow. Bye-bye. Or on Sunday. Bye.